Let's jump into Amos 1:4. The Hebrew reads, V'shilachti esh bevet Chazael ve'achla menot ben Hadad. Now more slowly. V'shilachti esh bevet Chazael ve'achla menot ben Hadad. V'shilachti esh bevet Chazael ve'achla menot ben Hadad. So we begin with Vav consecutive form, V'shilachti. This is a PL form with the expected vocalization. It is a first-person common singular suffix conjugation, but because of the Vav, I will send fire. I do not recommend translating the Vav as and. I would translate as so, simply because of the context, but it is really the context that should guide our translation of Vav. I will send esh, fire, bevet Chazael. We have the preposition ba, prefix to the singular, masculine singular construct noun, vet. The second beit does not receive a dagesh because it is preceded by a vowel, therefore it is bevet. So in the house of Chazael, ve'achla, and it will consume. This is the verb to eat, but eat can also mean consume. This is a third feminine singular, and it will consume. Now keep in mind that this is a masculine plural construct. Remember that there are certain words in Hebrew that will take what appears to be a plural ending, but it will really be masculine. And this is a masculine term, the citadels of Ben Hadad. Really, we have a three-word construct chain. Armenot is a construct, Ben is a construct, and Hadad would be the absolute noun. So I will send fire against the house of Hazael, and it will consume the citadels of Ben Hadad. We should probably translate Beit as palace here, so I will send fire against the palace of Hazael, just because of the parallelism. Since Beit is in parallelism with Armenot, that would just make sense. So let's take a look at the accent pattern. First of all, I want to identify the two major disjunctive accents. And of course, last word, as we would expect, gets the accent siluk. And we remember that oftentimes in prose, very commonly in prose, in fact, the quote-unquote halfway point of a verse is marked by the atnach, which we find below the aleph here. Now, we already know from the translation that these disjunctive accents actually divide the verse up into two sensible syntactic components. And so the Masoretes have provided us with a correct syntactic division of the verse. So V'shilachti has the conjunctive accent mercha, and that is followed by the disjunctive accent tifcha. Bevet follows with the conjunctive accent munach. And then, of course, we get the atnach on Chazael. All right, let's have a look at the Masoretic manuscripts now. We see that the Cairo Codex reads, V'shilachti esh bevet Chazael, v'achla almenot ben Hadad. Nothing to report there, except the appearance of Rafeh marks. Remember, Rafeh marks are the marks that distinguish beged kefet letters that should be spirantized, in other words, without dagesh, the softer pronunciation. When we go over to the Aleppo Codex, we see that there is a lamed in the margin to the left, but that clearly does not belong to our verse here. Okay, let's take a minute to have a look at the Dead Sea Scrolls and to compare the text of Amos found in the Dead Sea Scrolls with the Masoretic text in the Leningrad Codex. All right, so we can see, if you look to the right of your screen there, that the letters Vav, Shin, Lamed in the word V'shilachti are supported by various fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the only other portion from verse 4 that is actually attested is the ot, the plural ending of Armenot, and Ben Hadad. Ben Hadad. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are not in any way at variance with the Masoretic text in Amos 1:4. Now let's check the Targum. Amos 1:4 in Targum Jonathan of the Prophets is actually a super literal translation of a Hebrew forlaga, or the Hebrew base text, which would be identical to the Masoretic text. So we read in, if you look in the bottom right corner, for those of you who want to try to read some Aramaic, we get Vashalach ishata bevet Chazael utshetze biranyat bar Hadad. One more time, a little slower. Vashalach ishata bevet Chazael utshetze biranyat bar Hadad. So Va'ashalach means, and I will send fire. This is the Aramaic D stem or pa'el, whichever nomenclature you prefer to use. And it means the same thing as the Hebrew vishilachti. Notice that the Aramaic does not use the vav consecutive. So we have the prefix conjugation, ashalach, with the vav, and the vav does not flip the time of the verb. So, and I will send, ishata is the word for fire. It is a feminine singular determined form. So I will send fire, bevet Chazael, which is exactly what we have in the Hebrew. The Aramaic is identical here. Ut shetze. This is a quadriliteral verb, which means the same thing as ve'achla, and it will destroy. Ut shetze. Again, notice that this is a prefix conjugation, unlike the Hebrew, which is a suffix conjugation because of the vav consecutive. And it will consume biranyat, the citadel.